are talking Apocalypse Z, beginning of the end. Or I guess Apocalypse Z if you're in the Americas. Okay, so this is actually a Spanish language movie based on a series of novels. And I believe this is an adaptation of the first book. I presume that the plan is to make sequels that follow the other books. But what is the story? It's kind of like a 28 Days Later style sort of zombie movie. In actual fact, you could almost say this is 28 Days Later in Spain because it's very, very similar. In this particular movie, we follow the beginnings of a kind of a viral outbreak. And interesting, this one's actually set after COVID-19. So at the beginning of the film, there is some type of outbreak, and it's said that it's come from Russia. And because of COVID-19, people are quite quick to shut down the borders. And like COVID-19, this virus actually mutates. And initially it seems it's rabies-like, but not too bad, all things considering. But the mutations, the variations of this virus end up becoming a 28 Days Later rage-type zombie-like infection. And this kind of Spanish area, this kind of Spanish town, is ordered to be evacuated by the military. But we focus on this one guy whose sister is married to someone in the military, and his advice is don't go with the military because you can probably guess where it's going to end up, although we don't actually kind of see it on screen. So he kind of stays behind, and initially it's somewhat sort of desolate. There's not many people around, but he starts running out of food and has to kind of branch out, and eventually we run across a variety of different kind of survivors, some of which are friendly, some of which aren't, and obviously the threat of these zombie-like infected are always present. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So yes, if you like 28 Days Later, if you like The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, that sort of thing, this is a sort of serious take on that zombie genre. What works in this movie's favour? Now, I'm not familiar with the books, but I will say this movie does feel quite large in scale. We have quite a lot of wide shots showing kind of the devastation. There's loads of extras. There's lots of depictions of the trashed sort of world that this kind of reality is now in. Discarded vehicles, things like that. So I did think this movie showed a real sense of scale, and it's quite deliberate in its pacing. Like the movie starts off with it just being like normal everyday life, really. The very beginnings of the infection and people not really realizing what's kind of going on, and then we get the early days, and then the sort of the calm before the storm, so to speak, where we have the most people at this point carted off by the military, and it's just this one guy on his own, and it's kind of like it has different elements of that sort of apocalyptic style aesthetic. At the end, we have zombies en masse and things like that. So I think it runs a gambit of different sorts of depictions of what a desolate world might look like. So I thought that was pretty good. Now, this is a Spanish language film, and as I always say, it's harder to judge acting when they're not speaking your own language and you're relying on the translation through subtitles and things. But I've got to say, in my impression, I thought the acting was solid. And this is a movie that I was quite gripped with. I thought the character was quite strong. It's a little bit typical, he's lost his wife sort of a year before and things like that. It maybe falls into a few cliches here and there, but yeah, nonetheless, it was a good depiction of this guy who is lonely and kind of a little bit sort of at the end of his own, end of his own kind of like mental breakdown, so to speak. and depressed, but he's finding solace in his family, his cat. The cat plays a kind of a big part in this movie. It's like a man and his cat rather than a boy and his dog. Yeah, so, you know, and then we get, as the film goes on, we have more set pieces, more action sequences involving not just the kind of the zombies, but a group of kind of pirates and humans who have taken advantage of this kind of situation for their own selfish needs and things. So overall, I thought the movie was you know, it's a 2-hour movie, but I think the pacing is a little bit deliberately slow, but I think where it hits its kind of peaks, it's quite exciting. And because of the slow pace, you do get a feeling of, you know, you get to know the characters and things, and you have an empathy for them, and you're kind of invested in their story and their, because particularly because this world is so well realised, I would say. And effects-wise, it's not like skeletal zombies and things like that. This relatively sort of, you know, intact humans to a large degree, but they are obviously showing signs of this virus. But it's kind of played, as I say, more along the lines of the 28 Days Later kind of movies, if you like. So that was, you know, but again, it means they're kind of fast-moving. It means they're kind of more of a threat. That they're kind of running around in packs and are very, very vicious. So you do get a sense of danger that maybe your traditional style Romero slow walkers and stuff maybe don't give you quite as much of a threat. What didn't work for me, I think maybe it's that there's a little bit of lack of clarification. I mean, maybe this will come in later movies if they do make it, but I wasn't sure if these zombies are actually like dead and then reanimated, or they are just infected humans. But the only thing with that theory is that, you know, our alive humans, our protagonist characters, are really like running out and trying to find food. And I thought surely if these infected were alive, they probably, because they don't have the intelligence to scavenge and things, maybe they would have run out of food by then and therefore be kind of dying off. In which case it would maybe think that they are, you know, returning from the dead. But it's not really clear. As I've said already, I think this movie is very well made and exciting, but it's not particularly original. I mean, there's so many zombie movies at this point and sort of TV shows. It's hard to find an original idea in a zombie movie. We do see them here and there. This one isn't. It's very much business as usual in regards to zombie fare that we've seen before. It's done well to a good standard, but it doesn't do anything that you haven't seen before, and as such it becomes a little bit more of the same, but done well, as I say. And then the other thing I would say, there is a kind of like a section where we have our character meet a bunch of Ukrainian sailors, and again, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I'm struggling to see the motivations of people and things like that, and the movie does sort of slow down, introduce a few things in that sort of section where I didn't really feel it particularly kind of paid off. Again, this might be, if there's more movies outside of this, that, you know, it might be setting things up for later movies, and I guess because that is based on a novel, that's probably the case. But as it stands, it's still a very good movie. It's not an original movie, but it is very well done, and I suggest if you are a zombie fan, this is definitely one to check out, because it's, you know, it's a very watchable movie with likeable characters and a very sort of well produced with high production values. I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.